Today, I wanted to talk about Trump and dementia. This is episode 6, and today is October 6th. For those of you who have followed this Substack for some time, I hope you recognize that I'm neither a strict Democrat nor Republican. I try to focus on issues where I think most Americans can find common ground. And this week, I wanted to talk about dementia in public office and how it's affecting us. Before I get too far into this topic, I wanted to update you on the situation here in Portland with ICE. Then I wanted to reflect back on my own experience with dementia in the family, our lessons with observing Joe Biden, and lessons we are learning by observing Donald Trump today. I also want to talk about Google AI's inconsistent treatment between these two cases, and then to close with thoughts for the rest of us going forward. Here in Portland, the president's announcement of sending troops into the city sparked conversations across the political spectrum. Here in Portland, it's pretty clear that the majority of us, independent of our political leanings, agree on free speech and federalism. We agree on the right to protest peacefully. We agree that the local authorities accountable to our local community should handle assault and property crimes unless civil rights are violated. There was no need for federal law enforcement or a federalized Oregon National Guard to intimidate protesters. Federal Judge Karen Immergut ruled against Trump's troop deployment despite his war-ravaged description of Portland. As my video showed, Portland isn't living in hell, and consistent with my own findings, Immergut wrote that the president's determination was simply untethered to the facts. This isn't partisan. Judge Immergut has been a registered Republican since 2003, appointed circuit judge by George W. Bush, and given a lifetime district judgeship by Trump himself in 2018. And in fairness to the judge, he's also earned strong support from Democratic Senators Wyden and Merkley. Today, I attended the District 1 Town Hall meeting in Beaverton, hosted by Congresswoman Suzanne Bonamici, and it's important to note that the ICE facility is in Bonamici's district. Citizens packed a full house at today's town hall, voicing concerns about the possibility of federal troops here in Portland. No one in attendance raised their voices in support of the Trump administration's threats. Now on to dementia. The post that sparked the most conversations in my Substack was about my dad's final years with dementia. I believe modern medicine has the unexpected impact of unprecedented levels of dementia. My dad had a heart condition, and a quadruple bypass surgery extended his life. However, his life after recovering from his surgery was one of cognitive decline. Medicine extended the life of his body, but not of his brain. My dad likely had vascular dementia from heart disease, but his death certificate listed heart disease, not dementia. This underreporting has skewed statistics massively, and a 2025 NIH-funded study from NYU, Johns Hopkins, and other institutions now reports that 42% of middle-aged adults will develop dementia. This is as common as high blood pressure or high cholesterol, but we just don't talk about it the same way. At a personal level, I worry that my own kidney treatment might similarly extend my life, leaving me vulnerable to dementia in my later years. After all, I have a family history of dementia on both sides and an APOE4 gene to boot. Dementia is happening frequently, and it's affecting the families of almost everyone I know. We just aren't comfortable discussing it. And so we all watched something happening with Joe Biden's mental state during the end of his presidency. Whether it affected his decision-making was debatable, but it clearly impacted the performative aspects of the presidency. Ezra Klein of the New York Times argued exactly this. He agreed with Biden's policies, but acknowledged that Biden's inability to handle the performative requirements of the presidency should disqualify him from re-election. Remember Dean Phillips, the one congressman willing to sound the alarm who ran against Biden in the primaries? He wasn't debating policy, just saying Biden was too old and wasn't polling well, despite shepherding the infrastructure bill, the CHIPS Act, and the Inflation Reduction Act. After Democrats lost, Phillips was vindicated personally, but he didn't celebrate because of the party's losses. Remember Robert Hur, the district attorney handling Biden's classified documents case? As a Republican, he chose not to prosecute because of Biden's age, calling him a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. Initially, Hur's statement was dismissed as a political hit job, but the released audio tapes of his interviews with Biden proved the merit of Hur's assessment. He wouldn't have won the case in front of a jury, and he needed a bold statement to justify dropping it amongst his Republican colleagues while Trump's documents case proceeded on. The Democratic Party suffered and just not trusting their instincts about the presidency's reality. We're here now with Trump. I won't argue here about Trump's overall intent. Despite many disagreements on his methods, I agree with elements of his base assertions. We all want more efficient government, lower healthcare costs with better outcomes, and reduce reliance on others for key manufacturing needs. But solving these issues requires sophisticated management, leadership, decision making, and communication across a complex ecosystem. I understand a significant portion of the population, maybe a third, loves Trump. I love my dad deeply toward the end of his life, too. The question isn't about love. It's whether we want a dad controlling finances, driving, uh, operating the stove, or even running a country at that stage. So during Biden's time, people in visible positions made the case. The signs are there with Trump, too. Less than a week ago, on September 30th, Representative Madeline Dean stated that Trump was incoherent when speaking to the company's top generals and admirals in a meeting in Quantico, Virginia. A week before that, his September 23rd UN speech was disrupted. Trump claimed by three sinister events, including a frozen escalator, broken teleprompter, and a quiet sound system. He acknowledged the teleprompter wasn't working and spoke without it, delivering remarks rambling enough to prompt front-page coverage questioning his mental acuity. Trump frequently boasts about passing the Montreal Cognitive Assessment, a basic screening test for dementia that involves simple tasks like drawing a clock. In April, the White House released a physical declaring him in excellent health. But we've seen this playbook before. I know medical diagnosis isn't for the general population, and these are private matters. But we should scrutinize whether our leader's presentation strengthens us or puts us at risk. Ezra Klein, Dean Phillips, and Robert Hurd did the brave thing. They didn't take the easy path. They spoke the truth. We're in the Trump era now. Who will come forward? Personally, I think it's time to invoke the 25th Amendment. Just as I have many issues with Trump, I also have many issues with the position that J.D. Vance has taken too. However, at least J.D. Vance is of sound enough mind to do the job, even if that proves more effective and dangerous for the left. I also get that this just won't happen now. The first two impeachment attempts proved Republican congressmen will fall in line to win primaries. Our job as citizens is to appeal to the right instincts and establish objective standards of mental acuity for the presidency. The problem with Google. Too many Americans have stopped thinking for ourselves. We accept CNN or Fox News and social media feeds that reinforce one-sided opinion. What's happening with Trump and happened with Biden is apparent to anyone who's experienced dementia in their own families. Yet, we rely on narratives. AI could have been the savior here, objectively analyzing data. But fearing political blowback, Google Search AI has punted. The Verge documented Google Search AI's omission of Trump and dementia from AI overviews. Other publications picked this up too. Watch what happens. Google Search AI provides a balanced overview on Joe Biden. It summarizes historical figures like Ronald Reagan, later diagnosed with Alzheimer's. But for Donald Trump, no AI overview, just search results. Google has the data. Digging into Google Gemini reveals what Search AI won't. Signs and declines, White House counterstatements, ethical considerations, and this conclusion. In summary, there is no confirmed medical diagnosis of dementia or cognitive impairment of Donald Trump. However, his public behavior and speech have led several independent mental health experts to raise concerns and suggest he exhibits signs consistent with cognitive decline that warrant a more comprehensive medical evaluation. These claims are countered by the official medical records released by the White House. What would be wrong with Google Search AI providing this summary? Google Gemini also offered an answer citing political sensitivity. News reports have noted that Google AI Overview has explicitly refused to generate summary for some searches concerning the mental acuity of one political figure, while providing a cautious summary for similar query about another. This suggests specific, highly sensitive filters applied to certain individuals or controversial topics to avoid political backlash or being forced to take a position. The impact. The Democratic Party still suffers from what Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson called original sin. But this just wasn't about losing an election. History will show how it enabled a presidential term where legal, judicial, and constitutional violations became normalized. Republicans would be wise to recognize Trump's very low approval numbers and that freedoms are good for popularity. Why do you think the NFL chose Bad Bunny for the Super Bowl halftime show in 4 months? Supporting diversity and international appeal is good for business. Imagine that. My point is simple. Highlight what most Americans agree on. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week.